Welcome everyone. Welcome to our webinar series, Expert Speak, hosted by DataMites in partnership with the International Association for Business Analytics and Certification, IABSE. Our speaker for the day is Mr. Govind Maheswaran. Let me give you a brief intro about our speaker for today. Mr. Govind Maheswaran is a data scientist, a tech evangelist, and a speaker. He is working as a leader of the artificial intelligence practice at an MNC, and he's involved in creating and managing innovative solutions to tackle business requirements of clients in the AI, deep learning, automation, computer vision, NLP, and virtual assistant domains. Before this, he founded his startup called Peppy Eggs Interactives, which was focused on the entertainment sector and which went on to become the pioneer in introducing Kerala to social media marketing. That much is with Govind. Over to you, Govind. Govind, are you on mute? Yeah, over to you, Govind. We can start, Govind.
Hello, I hope I am audible. Looks like I'm having a very minor technical issue. I cannot hear you people.
Yeah, it's perfect right now, Govind. You can go ahead.
Okay, let me just disconnect and reconnect.
Okay. Yeah, Govind.
Hello, hi. I am in the call. Can you please confirm if you can
Yeah,
hear me?
yeah, we can hear you. Can you share your desktop and?
All right. I am unable to share my video. Can you please take care of that?
Yeah, Jasir, can you make the speaker the co-host for him to share the desktop. Yeah.
All right.
Yeah, we're good to go.
Awesome. So I hope I am visible, I am audible, and my screen is also visible.
Perfect.
Great. Hello, everyone. Good evening. Thanks all for joining. I'm really sorry for this confusion that we have had, the technology challenges that we have had for the past 3-4 minutes. I was not able to hear anything. I just logged back in and now things seems to be working fine. I hope you all understand the situation. We all have been working from home for about 1.5, 2 years, two plus years now almost. And these technical challenges always pose problems in all our calls. So no better way to start a webinar than to say, hey, sorry for the technical trouble. I hope my screen is visible, and I am sure Ram has given you an overview of the session today. But then just for everyone's benefit, I'm saying that I'll be talking a little bit about this concept of trusted AI. And AI is a topic that needs no introduction. All of you know about AI. You're using AI in your life. I just want to talk a little bit about the trustability or the explainability of AI in general, which is already causing problems here and there, and which will be a major trend, a major topic of discussion, maybe a couple of years from now, right? So about me, I'm not sure if Ram has given you people an overview about me. My name is Govind Maheswaran. I lead the AI team of a Big Four consulting firm. I've been in the post for about the past 7 years, around the beginning when people in the sense businesses started trusting AI to make their decisions. I still remember in my early days, convincing a bank to take up a proper risk assessment model was a pain, right? We have came a long way from there. Now our clients are asking us if there's any possibility wherein we can implement AI in their existing systems. So yeah, so I grew with the field of AI. I happen to grow with the field of AI. I am a foodie. I am a traveler. I am a dog lover. I'm from this place called Trivandrum in Kerala, which is the southernmost part of India. So yeah, that's where I'm from. In my free time, I do consulting for startups wherever about the like getting them to pitch their ideas, posting some questions over to them, helping them with their technology, those kind of things as a hobby of sorts. So this is me. I mean, now that the video is available, it does not make sense, but then it's just a picture of me. So like I said, AI is something that is like all around us. AI is like God. It's omnipresent. It's omniscient. It's around us. I mean, all of you, I'm sure, if you look just around you, I'm sure you'll find at least one equipment that is AI powered, right? If you're saying no, I would not believe you, right? Because it's absolutely all around us. What I've shown in the screen are some fancy things. You all know about Tesla, the self-driving wonder, the autonomous driving car thing. It's very popular. And if you're from that part of world where you could have where there is Tesla in the market, I'm sure you would have seen at least one and always been awed at how awesomely it does all this, navigation and stopping at the right traffic signal, giving way to passengers, all the things it does very wonderfully. And even if someone on the other side does a rash driving, it adjusts itself so that it avoids an accident. The smart speakers, right? All of us probably have one around you. I have one in my table. I have a Google Nest in my table. When it gets frustrating, sometimes I just ask it to play relaxing music. Although I never really had to ask it about weather updates and all those things because we are almost perennially stuck at home. But still, a lot of uses for this intelligent assistance. Uber, I'm sure all of you use Uber and all this intelligent tracking that it has. Even in Google Maps, if you look at it, it will tell you the destination very clearly. I mean, the the time for you to reach the destination very clearly. And it uses a lot of machine learning, a lot of data processing, a little bit of AI behind the screens, right, behind the scenes, so that you don't really see that AI in work. It's so seamlessly integrated into your experience that you don't feel it is there. Chatbots in many websites nowadays, there are chatbots. You chat with chatbots, and I'm sure that all of you would have at least one experience of getting frustrated with a chatbot, talking to a chatbot so long, and then it'll just be beating around the bush or giving you the same answers over and over, and you'll be getting frustrated with it. Recommendation systems, again, all of you'd be logging into YouTube and thinking what it is that you're going to listen today or watch today, and suddenly YouTube is coming up with 20 recommendations that is really relevant to you, that you would really like. Even in Spotify, the same thing, right? And also, if any of you have had the fortune of traveling in these troubled times to an airport, you would have seen that most of the airports all over the world have implemented this automated mask detection systems, automated distance, safe distance, ensuring systems and all, right? So this is the way AI is all around us, right? But these are all like things, that you will not always see or feel right away, because unless you use a Tesla, you don't know about autonomous cars, right? But I can tell you 10 other examples of how AI is touching you in your day-to-day life, right? So if you look at, I don't know, if you use an Android phone, you would say that you have parked your car somewhere, and then you go to a mall or to a festival or whatever, and your phone automatically remembers your location, a parking location. It will tell you, hey, you parked your car at this location. Your YouTube notifying you, saying that, hey, the new episode of the web series that you had been binging has been uploaded by the subscribers, right? If you use an iPhone or a Mac, you would know that when you're connected to your power, and when you're using it, it will charge only up till 80%, and then that 80 to 100% charging happens based on your patterns, right? If you're a person who and this is something, if you have an iPhone, you can try this out today. If you leave your phone to charge overnight, you will realize that in 1 hour, 1.5 hours, it will reach 80%, and then it will stay at 80% all the way till like about 30 minutes before you wake up in the morning, your typical wake up time, right? So it understands your sleep schedules. Based on that, it figures out, okay, let's keep it at 80 for optimized battery life. Just 2 hours before, or probably 20 minutes before my owner wakes up, I'll just charge it upwards of 80%, right? Simple application of AI, not very complicated AI like facial recognition or any awesome, super awesome things. But these simple applications of AI gives a delight to us, right? Like it improves our user experience greatly, right? Even if you look at Gmail, right? If you open your Gmail and if you're typing an email, right, it auto completes your sentences. Please find attached, and it already knows that you're applying for a job, and it says that attached my resume for your kind perusal, or whatever, right? Because great resignation is the trend now. Everyone is uploading their resumes, everyone is upskilling themselves and trying to join new companies. You have a similar feature in LinkedIn also, right? When someone sends you a message, for you to respond, it gives you 2 or 3 options, and in most cases, whatever you want to say would be one of these 3 options, right? So it's so much AI that we have in around us. And most importantly, one thing that I recently enjoyed a lot is that I happen to be lucky to take a vacation earlier in December, to a foreign country where English is not the primary language, and I had absolutely no trouble there. I had Google Translate and Apple Translate with me, and wherever I could go, I mean, if there's a signboard that is only in that language, I could just point my camera there and I could see the translation in real time, right? And that was a very huge help for me, right? So AI, like I said, it's all around us. It is helping us a lot, and we are to some extent dependent on AI. Just I'll give you a thought experiment. Just imagine that you're being taken to, say, 10 years back, right? You have a time machine, and you're being taken 10 years back, and see, and just think about what are the things that you will miss from your current living situations, and you will understand what role AI is playing, right? But then, in order for AI to help us, there's a lot of things that happens in the background, right? And in all cases, it is about the data that AI needs. AI, as you know, AI is just a fancy term for applied machine learning, right? And machine learning is nothing but learning from data, and like learning from data such that when a new kind of data comes in, it can give the most preferable or most accurate, most possibly accurate response to that, right? Let me take you to this one scenario. This is a joke that has been in circulation for so long, but I'll just walk you through this. So this person is calling a pizza company called Gordon's Pizza, and the operator is saying that no, it is not Gordon's Pizza, it is Google's Pizza, and Google has bought it like some time back. And the agent is asking, hey sir, do you want the usual? And the person is confused. How do you know me? How do you know what my usual is? So clearly the organization has all the data of this person's past purchases, and it's saying that, hey, as per our data sheet, last 12 times you ordered pizza with these preferences, right? So this guy is getting annoyed. He's like, yeah, no, this is bad. And then the operator is suggesting, can I suggest you something with ricotta, arugula, and dry tomato, which is vegetarian, right? Which this person is not really happy about. So he's asking, hey, no, I don't want vegetarian pizza. Now the agent is suggesting that, no, you are having a very bad cholesterol, which is bad for your health, so you should take vegetable pizza. And this person gets pissed again, saying that, hey, I have I'm taking my medicines, so my cholesterol is under control. So it's like, no, I have not seen you purchasing medicine from any of the shops in our network in the past couple of months. Then this person is saying that I bought it from a shop that is not in your network. And then the agent is saying you did not withdraw enough money to buy medicine, right? So this guy is getting like super pissed at this guy is like, okay, they have all my data, this is crazy, I am done with this, I am just going to leave this country for good, right? At that point of time, the agent is saying that, unfortunately you cannot do that because your passport has expired a few weeks ago, right? uh, if it's not a great joke or anything, but this brings smile in our lives, right? It's a simple joke. It's about the kind of data about ours that is present all around, in all these AIs that we use, right? Because these AI, how do they train themselves? Because they need data for their training, and this data comes from our interactions with the systems, the things that we upload, the things that we give permission to, and so on and so on and so on, right? So there's a lot of risks to associated with an AI like this. The data is the key risk, right? So let's talk a little bit about what exactly is the risk of AI that we have around us, right? So like I said, data, them having all the data, that is a risk because there's a privacy concern associated with it. There might be some data about us that we are not comfortable for a machine to process, and if at all this machine is taking a decision based on whatever data that we have provided about us, or that we have involuntarily provided about us, that is going to hit us badly, right? So that is one concern that we have: data privacy, security. And the other thing is AI systems, see, when human beings make a decision, there is a human component with it. There is an emotional component, right? So let's say that a very simple scenario: you have an employee who is coming to you and saying that their father or mother is seriously sick and they want to take a day off, right? As per the system, right, they might have exhausted all their leaves, and there is no way in which they can take that leave, right? An AI would definitely say, no, you don't have leaves, go work, right? But as a human being, you can empathize with that person, right? You can empathize that, okay, you also have a father and a mother, so you know how sad you will be if your father or mother gets sick, and you would know how you'll not be able to work. Then you'll be worried about, hey, have they had their food, did they take medicines? There'll be that worry with us throughout, right? So the same thing translates. You can put yourself in that person's shoes and imagine how difficult it is for them, and then take a decision that is a little bit emotional, but it makes sense for the employee, right? So that is a key differentiator between human thinking and AI thinking. I'm not saying that one is better than the other, whichever way. There are situations when you have to take decision right from your heart, and there are situations where you have to use a little bit of your brain. Depends, but still, in an AI context, it is always taken based on proper logical reasonings. And the data thing, it gets very bad because if the data gets into the wrong hands, it is going to be very dangerous, right? So Google as a company, maybe you trust Google as a company, that is fine. But then what if you lose this data? What if Google loses this data to some other service provider, right? I'm not saying that Google would do that, but maybe from a smaller vendor might not have that much security systems in place like a Google or an Apple or a Microsoft, and bad things can happen. So all your data going into the wrong hands would affect you very badly, right? And then there is always the fictional threat or science fiction threat of a superhuman AI. um, I don't know. I mean, we cannot really predict future. It's possible that probably 10 years from now, systems like metrics will be around, who will be, putting all of us in energy jails and taking our energy. But I don't know if that would ever happen. I personally feel that it is a science fiction thing for now, and I personally hope that it is a science fiction thing for the future. So these are some of the risks associated with AI, and how it all comes and hits you is when your data is being used in ways that is affecting you, right? For example, you might be wanting a loan, right, to buy a home or to buy a new car or whatever, right? And you have, you know, you have sufficient documents, the salary slips, your income tax returns, your all the necessary details that enables you or makes you eligible for that amount of loan, right? But then due to something you committed in the past, right, probably 10 years ago or 15 years ago, something you committed in the past which is in the system, the bank AI is rejecting your loan, right? How difficult would that situation be, right? You are eligible, you have the weight means to repay it now, you have the means to afford it now, and that is something that you need. A home is something that you need, or a car is something that you need. But then the AI system is saying that no, this person is not eligible for that because of this things that happened in the past, right? Now that is to some extent, again, acceptable, because at least the system is telling you why you're not eligible. Now what if the system just tell you you're not eligible, end of story, right? That would put you in a very difficult situation because you don't know what you did wrong, right? You're not able to understand. And what if this thing that you did wrong is not something that you did, but it's about something that you are, right? What if you were denied a loan because of your gender, or because of your racial background, or because of your color, or because of your religion, right? Or because of your locality, right? So those things makes it even more painful than it generally is, right? So so let's talk about a couple of companies where all these companies, I mean, you don't need introduction to these companies. Apple, I'm sure all of you, at least some of you, would be using iPhones and Macs. Uber, you all would have taken an Uber ride, maybe not in the immediate past with all the Corona scenes, but in the long past, I'm sure all of you would have taken at least one Uber ride. Microsoft, if you're not using a Mac, then also, but for my ease, I'll say that you are either using a Mac or a Windows machine. Amazon, you all would have been buying machines from buying things from Amazon, and around the lockdown times, you purchased even your groceries from Amazon. Nikon, a major camera manufacturer, you would have at least one photo taken by a Nikon camera. You might not know it, the photographer took it, but I'm sure. And the last logo there, Cambridge Analytica, it's not something that you have used directly, but it is something that has used you, right? We'll go into detail. So I'm going to talk about the AI of these companies, right? Apple as a company, I talked about how they have this AI system wherein they charge your phone accordingly, right? When you connect your Bluetooth device, it knows what app you're going to open, or what music player you're going to use. A lot of machine learning goes in the backend, but but those are the good things about Apple, right? There is something bad that happened with Apple and AI about a couple of years back. I think if this was like 1 or 2 years back, 2 years back precisely. So Apple launched this credit card, digital credit card called Apple Card, along with Goldman Sachs, and you could apply from your iPhone with your Apple Wallet application. People could apply, and what happened was that it started being a little sexist. so you can see this person's tweet. This person is tweeting that apparently this person and his wife, they file tax jointly, which means like both of them will have the same income in paper. They know their property things are the same. They're married for a long time. So essentially, since they're filing tax together, they are both considered as equal income people, right? But still, Apple has given this guy a credit limit that is 20 times the credit limit of his wife, right? So that is crazy. I mean, just because the only difference between these two people are that his wife is a female and he is a male, and just because of the gender reason, this person got like 20x the credit, right? So that's a very painful thing. I mean, you don't I mean, that your gender should not be a criteria for figuring out what your credit limit should be. It should be based on your tax filings, your previous transactions, your credit history, a lot of such things, right? And it is very interesting. It's not just a one person thing. A lot of people reported this, including the Apple co-founder Steve Wozniak. He also had a tweet which said something like he got like 10 times the credit limit of his wife, right? Then this became a whole lot of issue, and Goldman Sachs, the bank which was the partner of Apple for this credit card program, they released a statement saying that this is irrelevant. We do not use gender as a feature in any of our machine learning algorithms, but it just happened like that. This has to be something else, and so on and so on, right? And it's just a corporately written way of saying that we don't know how we screwed up, right? So if you think about it, maybe they are true. Maybe they said that they are not using gender as an explicit feature to figure out if to calculate uh, the credit limit, right? But internally, implicitly, it has come through somehow, right? So there's like two aspects to it. One is if they have used gender, that is a very bad practice. You're not required to use gender. Okay, let's say that if they were probably doing it from a health insurance perspective. So from a health insurance perspective, yes, the life expectancy of gens are not the same as the life expectancy of women, right? So it makes sense to some extent. You can still argue that, I mean, it's all human beings, why do you want to discriminate? But still, scientifically, you can say that okay, there is this life expectancy difference, so they're using gender as a feature makes sense, right? But for a credit limit, it does not make sense, because whether it is a guy or a girl, what matters for a credit limit is how much salary they have. I mean, what is the repayment capacity and what is the repayment history has been through. Other than that, the gender does not really make a difference. If you want to, I mean, if you are a fraud, whether you are a male fraud or a female fraud does not make any difference. So that is one thing. There is no need to use gender. The second thing is, assuming that they have not used gender, then how did this difference happen, right? And they claim that their system is a black box. Their algorithm has decided this, and they don't know why their algorithm has designed came up with this particular number that's 20x lower, right? So that is an alarming thing, right? Let's look a little bit onto another example, Amazon. Right. So Amazon has this had this recruitment tool, right, which showed a bias against women. Right. That was crazy, because they just looked at their technical recruiting thing and they realized that apparently their system was turning down all or most of the job applications coming in from female candidates. Right. Now it was also, I mean, they were very annoyed at it, so they changed their system altogether. They scrapped the system. Very good move from Amazon. But there is one possible explanation for this. I mean, I'm not saying that the explanation is valid, but a possible explanation is that over the past, say, 20 years or 30 years from where this job has been recruiting on, right, it is possible that majority of the applicants were males, right? So probably all the training data that was given to it, right, all the training data that was fed into this system to figure out the ideal candidate, probably it was all male resumes, right? So when the system looks at it, okay, gender looks like an important factor. Or in other ways around, it is possible that in a resume, if you write it in third person, right, it's possible. I mean, some of us writes our LinkedIn things and all in third person. So he said that say things like Govind this doing this and this, he has done this, he leads a team of this. So all this he is appearing, right? When this is used to train a system, and then the system sees a she, the system would probably rank it a little lower than it would rank a he, right? It's an unintended bias, but nevertheless it's a bias, right? And this is a bias that is caused due to a skew in the training data, right? Now so far we have seen two cases where it's about sexism, right? Like discrimination between guys and males and females based on their gender, right? But that's not the only case. There are other cases also in this example here. So what happens is the Prime services, Amazon Prime, they started a same day delivery service. I don't know if it is popular in India now, but in US, everywhere else in the world, it's pretty popular. And apparently it happened that about five, and this is pretty old news, this is like almost 5 years back, they realized that the same day delivery thing is not applicable to certain zip codes where there is a predominant black population, right? Now again, it might, I'm sure that Amazon as a company does not believe in a white supremacy, right? And as any business, they should not, because it's all customers. But one way to think about it is that possibly the data that they had, right, the data that they looked at had a lot of orders coming in from places which were like white dominant, right? And then that is, and when they look at it, okay, orders are primarily coming from these locations, so let's roll out this particular thing to that location only, right? So again, an unintended bias, right? It's something that has crept in due to an issue in the data or an issue in the training, right? But still it causes a racism issue, right? Let's talk a little bit about Uber. Uber, one of our favorite ride-hailing services. People who have used Uber would vouch by Uber's quality of service, Uber's pricing policy, and also the international acceptance of Uber. Like any major city around the world you go to, you can use the same application and then get a cab. You don't have to do anything extra. I mean, it'll charge you from the card that you already use in your home country. So very useful application. All of us would have definitely used it. But Uber also had an AI mishap when it actually ran over a woman in one of their autonomous driving car test related things, right? So I mean, they have their reason to have autonomous cars, right? I mean, they can reduce the number of drivers, they can provide better service, they can get in more cars into their fleet. All means them having autonomous cars is a very good thing. But then the challenge there is that they need to test this, and it's an AI that is being tested, and sometimes it would go wrong. It could be because of so many things. It could be about that probably there was lighting issues. As you can see, this is happening in the desk time or probably in the dawn time. Probably the lady with the bicycle was detected as something else. I mean, whatever it was detected as, it should not have hit it. But still, it's something has gone wrong, and this person was killed, right? So that is not a good use case for AI, right? Now, so many such examples. Nikon is a very crazy example. So apparently, they created a facial. You might have seen. I mean, in digital cameras, if you open it, you will see that this thing will viewfinder of sorts will appear around your face, so that it will detect the face, and if you want to do the red eye correction, all focusing, all those things will be handled. So it happened that there was a time when Nikon released this version of their face detection software which did not detect Asian faces, right? And in this example that you see, it is that, so it's an Asian lady. So it's just that she has small eyes. I mean, it's a facial feature of people from her region, but Nikon considers that as that the person has blinked, and it is requesting you to retake the photo because there's an imperfection in the photo. So what they are doing is they are tagging a very racial facial feature, a normal facial feature in that race, as an imperfection, right? Which is again, which again has racist intonations, right? again, I'm sure that Nikon as a company, and I believe, if I'm not wrong, Nikon is a Japanese company. I'm not sure though. But anyways, I'm sure that a company like Nikon would never, absolutely never want to discriminate any human being, because again, it's a business. They want more business. They don't want to discriminate against anyone. No businesses want to, right? But this is just this is a mistake that crept in somewhere, right? The AI failed somewhere, and I strongly believe, it's just my belief, I strongly believe that this is because the training data that they used did not have much Asian faces, or faces where, or faces from races where small eyes are a norm, right? So a lot of such examples. Recently Microsoft created a chatbot called Tay, uh, and created a Twitter account to it. You could tweet anything to it and it will respond. Initially it was all good, and it was trained to learn from the instructions that is, or the messages that is coming to it, right? Initially it was all good, giving decent replies to people. But then off late, the more training it got into, it was coming up as very bad. It was coming up as racist. And there was this, I did not put screenshots here deliberately, because not good messages, absolutely not good messages. A person is asking if you support genocide, and Tay is saying, yes, I support genocide, no problems with that. And then it is talking a little bit about, it's abusing a person, saying that you are just a Mexican, right? That 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 racism thing, right? So it just try to, it just learn the hatred that is there in the social media, right? Which is ideally not how it was supposed to learn, right? And this Cambridge Analytica thing, this was a rage sometime back in India. So those participants from India would relate. There was this in the past election, apparently Cambridge Analytica uh, apparently manipulated few of the members of the country to vote for a certain political party, or to not vote for a certain political party. I don't want to get into the politics of it, but then it is one of the cases where we all, at least some of us, were manipulated into believing that a party is doing something, or another party is doing something else, and so on and so on, right? That's also but this, I would say, is an intended use of AI, right? I'm not going to the morality of that. That's not for me, but still, it's an intended use of AI, and it's not always bad. Also, sometimes interesting things like this happen, and this was a very funny thing, right? So in football matches, in order to there's this AI camera thing that will move the camera around so that you see the ball always, right? Because that's a point. You have to figure out where the ball is, and this has to move. So what happened is this: there was this linesman in the game who had a bald head. So for some reason, the AI camera realized that, or figured out that this person is the ball, right? And then kept on tracking him, right? The fans who were watching these games in their homes, and they are all like, why is this camera looking at that bald person? Uh, let's watch the game, please. And people were pissed. This is a light-hearted thing, right? It's not affecting anyone, but some of the other examples that we have seen are affecting people from an equality perspective, from a life perspective, right? So if you look at it, there is like four reasons that typically, I mean, on a very high level, we can think about when we talk about having trust in AI, or what causes mistrust in AI. And this you have seen from the previous examples that we have mentioned. The first thing around is that unintended bias. In the first example we saw, like the Apple and Goldman Sachs, they never took gender as a parameter to see if to decide the credit score, right? But then somehow, and a bias has crept in, right? In the Amazon example, they just fed in the CVs from, or resumes from the past, say 5 or 10 years. It just happened that those resumes had a lot of say male population than female population, and therefore the algorithm learned that, okay, male population has to be considered, female population need not be considered, right? Same in that Amazon's other case, that area case. I mean, black zip codes versus white zip codes. Just probably they had the data in that way, right? So some of these are unintended biases, a bias that came in not because it was intently fed in, but it just happened to learn from that, right? The second thing is lack of representative data. The Nikon example is the best example for this, right? They probably did not have, or did not use data from Asian faces to train their system, which made their system little bit skewed against Asian faces. And the third thing is a very critical thing: lack of transparency, right? In not in some cases, in many cases, and I, as a person who is hiring machine learning engineers, AI engineers for the past couple of years, this is another thing that I typically hear from my engineers, that we created this data, we created this model, we got this output. We don't know what is happening in the model, right? So I asked them, why don't you know what is happening in the model? And they said it's deep learning, it's that it is hyperparameter, it is this, that. And sometimes it is true, right? Not always. I mean, like there are a lot of visualization things wherein we can kind of figure out what are the, because at the very end, any machine learning model that you talk about, right, at the very end, it is just a series of mathematical equations, right? It's, you give certain inputs to it, it's a mathematical function. A good algorithm is a very complicated, very complex mathematical function. A simple algorithm, not so much simple function, but nevertheless, at the very end, it's a mathematical function, and there is no way in which we cannot explain it, right? But sometimes it is possible that in very rare cases, in case of very advanced algorithms, we don't have intermediate steps to figure out how exactly it is, and that causes a lack of transparency. And that is one thing. And the second thing of lack of transparency is that if I am a machine learning engineer working in Apple, right, I can probably look at the algorithm and figure out, okay, this is the loop which caused all females to get a credit score that is less than all males. But then I, as a end user, right, I as an end user who applies for a card through Apple, I have no mechanism to figure that out. What is the mechanism that is used? What cleaning has been used? What features are taken? What features are not taken? I don't have understanding of that. And and the worst thing is, all these things happens from my data, right? My history, my payment history, my demographic history, all this information is taken and then it is processed. So there comes the fourth issue, which is the privacy issue, right? So these are some of the things that causes mistrust in AI, and that is how the concept of trusted AI comes into picture, right? So in trusted AI, it's just technically it is nothing new. It is just that your traditional machine learning algorithms, traditional AI, but then you ensure that you have more understanding of what is happening in the AI algorithms, and you have more control over what is happening in your AI system, right? Fair, reliable, unbiased. The algorithm has to be fair. It should not do anything unethical or anything that is outside outside fair practices. It has to be reliable. If it says that this person gets a credit score of, say, $5,000, it should be like that should be the person's possible credit score based on their credit history and all those things. And also the algorithm has to be unbiased. Just because a person's gender is something, or the person's race is something, does not mean that the algorithm should take an alternate decision, right? So essentially, trusted AI is a set of processes. It's like a framework that you implement to ensure that the AI system that you're creating does not have any bias, right? And it is completely transparent, right? Whatever is happening in the AI, whatever is going into the AI, whatever data that you feed in, whatever parameters that you feed in, there should be no bias in any of them. And whatever process your AI model is doing with this data that has been fed in, with these models that has been fed in, there should be absolute transparency in the process, where to the maximum extent possible, right? So four key things that trusted AI aims at are these. So first thing is privacy. If you're using a data from your customer, you should ensure that that is the least required data, right? Just you might need a zip code from a user. Don't get their address for it, right? Use as minimal data as possible, and then explain to the customer why you are using this data. You might be aware of this guidelines called GDPR that came in European Union about 1.5 2 years back. It's about, so if you visit any website that has their presence in European Union, it would ask you, it would say that, hey, we have some cookies that we use. We'll be tracking these information of yours. Are you okay to accept the cookies, right? And it is mandatory that any site there has to give this information to the user on what information they're collecting, how they'll be using that information, who will be using that information, as in like they or their probably third party vendors, those kind of things, right? So similarly, you have to give an idea to the users that what data of yours would be used, what is the security rules around it, and why would that data be used. The second thing is explainability, right? In the previous example, your bank system is saying that you're not eligible for a home loan, right? And you should have the power to ask why, and the bank should explain back to you saying that, hey, this is because you took a home loan 2 years back from that particular state, and you have not paid that back, and that bank has put a star against your profile, and that is why you're not eligible for a loan, right? Or probably something like we see that as you have not filed your taxes in the last 3 years, which means that you're not eligible by our systems, right? So that explainability has to be there in your AI system, right? If it takes a decision saying that, especially in case of yes no decisions, it should be able to properly explain why the system arrived at that particular decision. The third thing is about bias, like I mentioned, no racial discrimination, no ethnic discrimination, no gender discrimination, no discrimination at all, right? At times, discrimination would be required, like the example that I mentioned in case of healthcare. Sometimes it makes sense to have gender as a parameter, but unless it is forcefully required, please don't use that. Please not let's not have any bias. No bias in the training data that we are using, no bias in the testing data that we are using, no bias in included in any of the cleaning processes or AI processes that we are using. The fourth thing is about governance, right? You have to regulate all these things. So recently in the sense in the past 6-7 months or so, European Union has come up with guidelines on how to use AI. So they have created the use of AI as in 4 risk profiles: unacceptable, high risk, moderate risk, low risk, and so on. So any use of AI will have to be categorized into one of these things, and it will be very strictly regulated by European Union going forward. So that's a good thing that European Union as a conglomeration of countries is doing, and that is something that that can be done in a lot of levels. It can be done at a country level. If you work in a large organization, then of course you should have your own trusted AI governance system that tracks all the AI projects that's happening within your company. So it's a very relevant thing, right? Now, just reiterating the key things of trusted AI: fair, right? We use the minimal, proper use of consensual use of data. Ethical, because no unethical practices, whether it is for data collection, data cleaning, or probably algorithm tuning, you use only ethical practices, right? The practices that you're proud to talk about, right? Accountable. At the very end, your AI makes decisions and you're accountable for it. If someone comes and asks you why did it make this decision, you should be able to answer that, right? Or your algorithm should rather be accountable enough or explainable enough to come and tell you what exactly has happened, why a person was denied a credit card, right? Or why a person was given, say, a limit of say $8,000, right? And also the AI has to be transparent. You should be able to figure out what is happening with the AI, why a certain decision was made, pretty much along the accountable context itself. So a couple of things that you can do to get to trusted AI, like the one, basically I'm just summarizing the 2 previous slides together in this. So you have to ensure that whatever data that you're using, there should be privacy, there should be security, and I missed to add the consent part. There should be consent, right? If you're using your data, if you're using data of a user for something, you should have their consent to use it, and you should make them understand why you are using that data for. Then the bias of data sets. When you choose data sets for any AI processes, even for other processes, these are all generic things. This is not just for AI. Any processes that you're using your data, you should ensure that there is absolutely no bias. All representations of your features should be taken into consideration and should be properly. There should be a data quality mechanism wherein you check that. Rather than just checking for incompletion of data, you should also look if there is any bias in the data, right? Then transparency, right? You have to ensure that your entire model is transparent. Given a choice, you can always look at why a certain decision was made in a certain case, right? The fourth thing is the keeping a human in the loop. It's not always practical because we want to automate things and get things moving fast. So if you keep a human in the loop, at times it is going to be slower than a completely automated system, but it is very relevant because sometimes you need a human in the loop to look at things and ensure that things are going in the right path. Now, the last one is a pretty controversial thing, right? Limit the impact of AI systems on critical decision making. I don't know how possible that would be, because we are all trying to move to a world where AI helps us a lot, and critical decision making is one such thing. But like I said before, thinking with heart versus thinking with brain part, right? So a human doctor would anyways try to save their patient, irrespective of however less chance that they see, right? But an AI doctor would probably think that, okay, this person is anyways not going to survive, then why waste my time on it, right? That will be a very dangerous thought, right? I would not want any of my relatives or my friends or anyone in the world for that matter to be uh, uh, denied treatment just because an AI decided that they don't have a chance of survival. I don't remember the name of the movie, but there is a movie, I think it's I, Robot, wherein the hero is a retired police officer or a police officer, and he's very pissed that he once met with an accident, and a robot came to help him. There was a kid also with him. He wanted the kid to be saved because it was a kid, but the robot decided that the kid has only 8% chance of survival. This person had like more 40% or something, so the robot saved this person, leaving the kid there, right? uh, Again, moral questions, I don't want to talk a lot on that. All right. So yeah, so this is my this is what I had to tell in terms of trusted AI. Like I said, it's not a very technical thing. It's more like a governance thing, or it's like an ethical or the right thing to do. It's something that you can very easily incorporate into your AI processes. It's not super complicated. It's just a matter of ensuring a few things, ensuring that you're doing things the right way. And it always makes sense to do things and then think about making it right, rather than that. It's always good to do things the right way, right from the beginning. uh, that is my time. I mean, this is my you can always reach out to me. This is my website, that is my Twitter handle. Reach out to me in case of any questions. Just a shout out to Saket Venkatesh, who was my colleague. He worked with me on building this trusted AI thing. Thanks, Saket, for some of the contents in this. And the template, SlideScore, Flaticon, and FreePick. Those are the websites from which I got some of the artifacts used in this website, in the slides. So shout out for them as well. Thanks, people. Yeah. So that's all from my side. I can take a couple of questions.
Thank you so much, Govind. It was really enlightening for us to know, from all different aspects of, of our everyday lives, how how AI is going to be definitely is going to be here for real. But yeah, we have a couple of questions. I have one from Basim. He's asking, what are black box algorithms? Can you give me an example and tell what is your take on black box algorithms? You're muted.
Yeah. So black box algorithms, it's not like it's not a set of algorithms per se. It's just that certain algorithms are very complicated, that you cannot really figure out how exactly the algorithm is working, right? Sometimes it might be too complicated. Sometimes it might be there'll be so many steps associated with it, especially in deep learning and all, right? So you can say that there's a lot of hidden layers in deep learning, right? And after each layer, a certain action happens on your input, right? And then this one node can connect to many other nodes, multiple nodes, a combination of nodes, and so on and so on and so on. So it becomes increasingly difficult to track how exactly the data is progressing, right? For example, if you know about a convolutional neural networks, for example, I'm not saying that it's a black box algorithm, but if you look at convolutional neural networks, what happens is you're trying to do a cat versus dog comparison, right? So after each convolution, it figures out certain, in the initial layers, it tries to figure out individual components like probably eyes or nose or probably shape of ears, those kind of things. And then in the further latter layers, it will try to figure out how how these features are aligned together, how they are connected together and all, right? And all these things are happening with just pixels color values, right? If it is happening visually, you can look at it and figure out, okay, it is looking at this, so this is going through this node, then going up in this node, and so on and so on. It might not always be possible in all algorithms, right? So that is why we call certain algorithms are black box, right? Because we don't know how exactly it is happening inside.
But going forward, do you think like at some point of time, like, there will have to be an effort to be, to explore more into the reasoning part of it? Because uh, at some point of time, this will come up as, this black box aspect of deep learning, right? Uh, I don't know, maybe something what's called as cognitive AI and stuff like that going forward, which will actually, because there was even a recent incident where Google has all those images repository, and still it went ahead and called a few images of some people in a photograph as primates. So then at that part of it, it scrapped, it got scrapped. So, but leaving it alone and not figuring it out, is it an option?
Absolutely not. Absolutely not. See, that's exactly the core of this presentation. I mean, even if you don't go into understanding this black box, you will still be able to build models, right? You will still be getting, like, say what, 70-80% accuracy. I mean, with all this tuning and all, you would be even if you like just blindly, so about hyperparameter tuning, you would be knowing. Even if you blindly, play around with values, if you do a lot of tries, you'll eventually get the right thing. I mean, a learned person will know what exact values to put, but an inexperienced person can play around and get at the values, hit and trial, right? But the point is, it's not just about accuracy, it's also about understanding what it is, right? The example that you mentioned is very relevant. uh, a certain racial group of people were considered as chimpanzees or orangutans based on from their pictures, right? And that's very hurtful, and from a company like Google, it's very painful to see something like that. But yeah, I mean, I'm sure that Google would be looking into the issue, and probably in the next version they would have solved it. And going forward, like you said, yes, definitely companies should have a mechanism wherein they don't just randomly push out results. They should be able to figure out why exactly things happened. And I know about this one regulation that happened in one European country, wherein they asked banks to say exactly, I mean, if you're providing a credit risk, a certain risk rating to a certain individual, the bank should be able to explain that, right? If at all, or else the person can sue the bank saying that, hey, I deserve a better credit line, this bank gave me only this much, I want to sue the bank. That's possible. So yes, I would want the companies, or it is ideal for the companies to incorporate this into their systems, so that their AI systems are no longer black boxes.
Thanks, Govind. We have Jamal Andrews Omar, who's asking you if you can explain a few commonly used programming languages in AI. I guess
Absolutely.
general question.
Absolutely. So AI programming languages, primarily we use a lot of Python for AI, because one, it is very easy to learn Python and use Python. Second thing, a lot of packages support for Python, right? Any major deep learning packages, or computer vision packages, or natural language packages, there is always a Python component, right? There's always a Python package for that. So if you're going to learn a new programming language from an AI perspective, I would definitely suggest Python. But if you look at it, any language, I mean, language is just a tool, right? A lot of things are happening in other languages also. Probably in a couple of years time, all other languages will reach to that level of maturity, right? But I would say my primary choice is Python.
Okay. We have Jasir who is asking, how can you address the algorithmic bias originating from the human bias in the data? In the data itself, we
That
have
is
human bias.
that
Yeah.
is a very tricky thing. I mean, if see the my one of the first thing like when I joined in this field of data science, AI and all, one of the first things that my boss told me, and it's always valid. Everyone tells that a lot. It's a chunk in, junk out. As simple as that, right? So if your data, your primary job is to ensure that whatever data you're feeding into the system is very good before you even feed it into the system. We have a whole field of data science called exploratory data analysis to ensure that our data is perfect from a statistical perspective. What we say as part of trusted AI is we should also make it good from a ethics perspective or from a fairness perspective as well. But if there is bias in the data, then there is nothing that we can do from an algorithm perspective, right? Sometimes we can probably at a later point of time there could be algorithms which would look for the bias in the data. Like we have all these data quality tools now. Probably at a later point of time, maybe they'll have all these fairness assessment tools as well, which will take care of this. But then I think human bias, no way we can handle it.
Yeah, I think we are out of time, but then I'll try to squeeze in one more question.
Okay.
From your personal perspective, from your personal viewpoint, you know what Elon Musk is doing in terms of, yeah, his Tesla and self-driving cars and all. But what is your take on the Neuralink project of his, where he's going to be introducing chips inside the
Chips,
brain
yeah.
of human beings?
Yeah, so I'm sure you would
Oh,
have
very
seen that
scary.
video where the chimpanzee is playing a video game just based on the chip. It's personally it's very scary for me, right? Because one thing that make all of us human beings is that or one thing that is very important for us is free will, right? You have your life for you to take your own decisions. Sometimes you'll screw up, but then you can always say that it's my decisions that I made, right? uh, I am worried that a chip like that having in my brain, I can have a lot of advantages with it, right? I can probably, it will have the power of Google with it. If I want to know something, I can immediately send a mental Google query, get the answer, and give the answer out, right? So that way there'll be benefits. There are benefits to it, but I would say it's a little scary. I mean, you can always be a better
Yeah,
human being, but there is always that risk of you losing what makes you a human being altogether, your
exactly.
free will.
Exactly. Anyway, it's been fun actually having a session from you, Govind. Absolutely brilliant. Anyway, I'm sorry we have run out of time and we'll have to close the session. Maybe if we could have had more time with you, but it's brilliant. Thank you so much, Govind, for you taking a time out on a weekend and joining us and showing us all what all your experience you have with trusted AI. So thanks everyone for joining in, and we'll keep you posted for our upcoming sessions. And have a nice day and have a nice weekend. Thank you. Bye bye.
Thanks everyone. Bye bye.